Oliver Twist, Chapter 4. Bill Sikes' Terrible Crime. Once again, Oliver found himself being nursed back to health by kind strangers. Far from turning him over to the police, the ladies who lived in the house that he had broken into saw that he was as much a victim of criminals as they were. Mrs. Maylie and her niece, Rose, offered Oliver every comfort and protection, moving him a short way outside London to recover in the countryside. The peace he felt was unlike anything he had ever known, and he began to forget about his misadventures with Fagin and the gang. However, while Oliver was ready to forget, others were not. Back in London, Fagin was deep in conversation with a very secretive gentleman by the name of Monks. "You'll get your reward when Oliver's been shipped to Australia," said Monks, "not with him resting up in the country." "The fault isn't mine," wheedled Fagin. "Bill Sikes insists on taking him on the job." "I insist that you find Oliver Twist and see to it that he is ruined. I won't have blood on my hands, but get him convicted and sent away. Then you'll get your money." "Mr. Monks, you may be sure I will get rid of the boy. In the meanwhile, you must pursue your own side of the plan and get rid of all evidence from the workhouse." Monks gave a sudden start and rushed to the window. "Who's that?" he rasped as a woman's shadow disappeared along the street. "Calm yourself, young man," said Fagin. "We are safe here. I have eyes everywhere. I know where the boy is, and when the time's right, I'll find a way of acquiring him once again." You may have guessed that the shadow outside the window belonged to Nancy, whose conscience had overcome her fear of Bill Sikes and Fagin. Nor was that the first time she'd spied on Fagin and Monks. In the course of her very dangerous investigation, she had discovered a great deal of information relating to Oliver Twist and the various dangers that he faced. Armed with this information, she sent word the next day to the two people whom she knew had Oliver's true interests at heart, namely Mr. Brownlow and the boy's new protector, Rose Maylie, instructing both of them to meet her on London Bridge. Nancy was so worried for Oliver that she did not look round once she made her way back to the meeting. Had she looked back, she would have seen one of Fagin's gang following her just within earshot. As soon as she saw Mr. Brownlow and Rose, the words came pouring out, and Nancy told them everything she knew. Mr. Brownlow and Rose Maylie listened aghast as the extent of the plotting against Oliver became clear. "So Fagin wants Oliver because this Monk's character is paying him a reward?" Mr. Brownlow's voice was strained. "That's right, Mr. Brownlow, sir," said Nancy. "And Monks has been to Oliver's hometown and all, been to the workhouse where he found something, and once he found it, he got rid of it." By the time Nancy bade them farewell, Mr. Brownlow and Rose understood very clearly just how much danger Oliver was in. At length, Rose said in a shaky voice, "What I don't understand is why Monks would care about getting rid of a boy who grew up in a workhouse. It just doesn't make sense." "I'm beginning to think I may have the answer to all of this, Miss Maylie," said Mr. Brownlow. "I hope you will forgive me if I make my own investigation before I share my suspicions with you. For now, you keep Oliver safe, and I will do my best to track down Mr. Monks." The atmosphere in Fagin's room crackled with tension. The boys were in a state of shock. Dodger had been caught pickpocketing and had been arrested, and Charlie Bates had just recounted how the trial had progressed. Dodger had been sentenced to be shipped to Australia. "No, no," wailed Fagin. "Not Dodger, not the best of my boys." "Serves him right for getting caught, the cocky fool," said Bill Sikes. "I always said you should keep a better watch on what your little rats get up to." "Oh, is that right, Mr. Sikes?" said Fagin nastily. "Is that right? And what if I were to tell you that you should keep a better watch on what your little woman gets up to, eh?" Bill made a lunge for Fagin and grabbed him by the throat. "Just what are you talking about?" he demanded. "Ask Charlie, boy, Bill. Ask Charlie. Your Nancy's been talking to a lot of people she shouldn't, Bill. She was mighty angry that you got young Oliver shot and then left him for dead when you took him on your job. Your failed job, that is." Bill gave Fagin's throat a vicious squeeze, then dropped him, coughing and wheezing, to the floor. He strode across the room and bent down so that his nose was inches from Charlie Bates's face. "Is it true?" he hissed. Pale-faced, Charlie nodded. "Then she'll pay," said Bill. "Wait, Bill, what are you going to do?" wailed Fagin, realising too late that he had provoked Bill beyond reason. His face, white with fury, Bill Sikes strode from the room without giving Fagin a second glance. "After him, Charlie, and see what he's about," urged Fagin. Charlie did as he was told and dashed out into the night. He followed Bill Sikes through the alleyways. Bill never once looked round, nor left or right, up or down. He strode on without any thought of anything except what he would do when he got home to Nancy. Charlie loitered in the street and watched Bill push open his door. He heard the heavy creak of the floorboards as Bill climbed the stairs. He heard voices raised in argument for no more than a minute, and then he heard a loud crash. Moments later, Bill emerged once more onto the street, running now. As the first grey of dawn began to creep across the sky, Charlie crept through the door that Bill left swinging and climbed the stairs. Nancy lay dead on the floor, bleeding from a wound to the head.